Hello. We live in an age of increased diversity of faith and a rise in the number of people who profess no religious belief. This is a relatively recent situation. In medieval England, the material and spiritual elements of life were closely entwined. The church was at the centre of everyday life. People were conscientious church attendees, and the Catholic Church held a monopoly. The break with Catholic authority came with the 1534 Act of Supremacy, which made the monarch head of the church in England and Wales, and the church the established church, the official national church. Parishes were increasingly empowered as units of local government. Attendance at church became compulsory and legally enforceable. But the Protestant Reformation opened the door for further religious experimentation and doctrinal questioning. Where did all this lead over time? We have an incredibly informative source. A unique census of religion was carried out in 1851 as part of the 10-yearly general population census, first held in 1801, largely driven by the need to determine the availability of men to fight in the Napoleonic Wars. When it began, the census was little more than a head count, but there was a growing acceptance by the government of the need for data to inform administrative decisions. Change came with the founding of the UK General Register Office in 1837, charged with establishing a national system of civil registration for births, marriages and burials to replace the Anglican parish records, which were increasingly incomplete with the rise in dissenting groups and the removal of restrictions on Roman Catholic worship. England and Wales were divided into 619 civil registration districts under a civil registrar. As part of their remit, the GRO took over responsibility for the decennial census. In 1841, it was widened to record ages, rounded to the nearest 5 years, occupations and country of birth. Thomas Henry Lister, appointed as the first Registrar General, was the man in charge. He was succeeded in 1842 by Major George Graham, brother of the then Home Secretary Sir James Graham. Under George Graham's direction, the 1851 census was greatly expanded, and separate censuses of education and of religious worship were held alongside the population census. Limited information on religious practice had been collected in 1810, the result of an initiative by the House of Lords, but the 1851 exercise is the first and only time a comprehensive ecclesiastical census was held. The exercise was never repeated. Behind the survey was government concern about the failure of the established church to keep pace with the transformation of the country through industrialisation and a rapid growth in population, especially in the larger cities, including London, Birmingham, Bradford, Bristol, Leeds, Liverpool, Manchester and Sheffield. Anxiety over social unrest, accompanied by fears that the working classes were losing touch with organised religion, and as a possible consequence moral standards, had led in 1818 to the Church Building Act and the creation of a fund to award grants towards the building of new Anglican churches. The government also wanted to counter demands for the disestablishment of the church by showing that the Church of England still represented the majority of the population, legitimising its special relationship with the state and the right of bishops to sit in the House of Lords. With no provision in the original Census Act, George Graham relied on a clause empowering his brother, the Home Secretary, to authorise the gathering of additional information. The job of organising the Ecclesiastical Census fell to Horace Mann, a 28-year-old barrister, a member of Lincoln's Inn. Recent censuses have simply provided a tickless response to the question, "What is your religion?" Mann decided against this approach, thinking that most people would put Church of England by default, whether practising or not. What he wanted to quantify was the actual religious activity. The religious census covered England, Wales and Scotland, But unlike England and Wales, the response rate in Scotland was low, and not all of the returns that were completed have survived. The survey applied to the Church of England, nonconformist and Catholic chapels, Quaker meeting houses and Jewish synagogues. Enumerators were appointed, each covering a small area several weeks in advance, and tasked with providing the names and addresses of ministers or a responsible person at every place of worship in their district to their local civil registrar, who then issued schedules with a series of questions to be completed on Sunday the 30th of March and returned to enumerators on the 31st of March. For synagogues, the count was taken across the evening of Friday the 28th of March and Saturday the 29th of March. Part of the enumerator's job was to check the forms for completeness and attempt to find answers to fill in any gaps or resolve any anomalies, before returning the schedules to the local registrar, who made further checks before the results were sent to Horace Mann by the 22nd of April. Although the process relied on the enumerator's local knowledge, it was designed to be thorough, with checks to ensure a high degree of accuracy. Taking part was not compulsory, but an undertaking was given that only aggregate findings would be published, with details of individual returns embargoed for 100 years to encourage honest completion. So what questions were asked in the survey and with what results? That will be my subject next time. If you've enjoyed this video, hit the like and subscribe buttons and click on the notification bell to be informed when the next video is available, or you can click on the rose window over my shoulder.